Russia is evacuating tens of thousands from the city of Kherson to the south, with Ukrainian forces closing in. Now, President Zelensky says that Russia might be trying to recruit some of those leaving to fight in the war. But first, while this is playing out in that region, in the liberated towns in eastern Ukraine, they continue to dig up and uncover absolute atrocities. ABC's chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell, has spent the last several days in some of these communities. We have to warn you that what you're about to see is incredibly disturbing.
This is a story of what Russia has done in Ukraine. It's a dark tale of torture, hidden dungeons, mass graves, and unmistakable war crimes. And it's only now, as Russian troops retreat from parts of Ukraine's eastern front, that it can be told. Izium. Russian forces control this city in Kharkiv region since the beginning of April. A lightning Ukrainian counter-offensive forced the Russians back. What they left behind was a city in ruins, and a people who endured unimaginable torture. When the Russians came to town, they turned the ground floor of this police station into what investigators say is a torture cell.
Yeah, this is some of, it looks like ration packs. See there, it says Russian army.
Deeper into the bowels of the building, the conditions are squalid.
And 4 prisoners kept in here. It's damp, it's dark. It just reeks of fear. You see here on the wall, must be days. They're trying to keep track. 21, 28, I guess until they were liberated.
Mikhailo knows what the poor souls in this cell went through. He was there. He says he was abducted, beaten, and tortured. We first met him at the hospital where he was awaiting surgery for his injuries.
On the 29th of August, they took me from my home, threw a bag over my head, and took me into the cell. I spent 12 days there. First, they smashed my arm. Then they started beating me. They electrocuted me, tortured me however they liked. They tortured me for nothing. They didn't need a reason. They don't care. They are savages. After a while, I felt no pain. I didn't feel it. Even when they pushed metal spikes into my clavicle, I felt nothing but that point. The first 20 minutes that they were beating me up were painful, and afterwards, I didn't care. The next thing I know, I woke up in a hospital.
Mikhailo's wife, Valentina, wasn't sure he was going to make it once they brought him to the hospital.
There was no hope that he was going to survive, because he hadn't regained consciousness. Our son contacted the blood bank in Kharkiv, and thankfully, they helped. They gave us blood and plasma. And just as the first Ukrainian police were driving in Izium, no civilians were allowed in yet. But our son brought the blood and plasma in with police escort. That saved Mikhailo's life. He didn't even recognize our son.
They don't care who they torture. Men, women, elderly. There were women in the cells crying all night. They tortured one every morning. They called it morning exercise.
Mikhail, can you ever forgive? Can you ever forget what happened?
Never. This is something you can't forget.
We're traveling in a convoy with war crimes investigators. This is a recently liberated area, and already stories are starting to emerge of atrocities conducted by the Russians, and that's what we're going to see.
In the recently liberated village of Pesky Radkivsky, the investigators show us another torture chamber.
We are recording an interrogation and torture chamber in nearly every settlement. The locals who spoke to Russian military told us the Russians wanted people to fear them. They took 1 or 2 prisoners out of the cell to torture them and made them scream so that people around could hear it. Then there would be gunshots and quiet. They explained that they wanted people to hear and be in constant fear. Right opposite the house where they set up a torture chamber, there's a government building where they were giving out food. They tortured prisoners on the clock at the same time they were giving out food, throughout the day and at night.
Amongst the gruesome evidence discovered at the house, a box of gold teeth, extracted from victims. Andrei says that he was one of those brought here by the Russians.
Welcome to paradise. Come in. You'll feel like you're in heaven in here.
He says they beat his arms, legs and ribs, and he was held underground with others who'd been shot.
It was terrifying. I was afraid of getting killed. I have a little kid, 12 years old. I can never forgive them. I suffered for nothing. I was in my own land. I never harmed anyone. I only ever helped people my whole life. I won't forgive them.
The scars of this invasion run deep, physical and emotional. Victims in this region were beaten, waterboarded, electrocuted and put in stress positions, according to a Human Rights Watch report. The UN also finding that sexual violence against Ukrainians is used as a weapon of war, with victims ranging from 4 years old to 80. The world body estimates there are over 400 cases of forced disappearance by the Russian army and affiliated groups. The Russians pillaged these small towns, taking everything they could carry. And those who survived must now learn to live with the horrors they've endured.
I'm back to the kingdom. Home is home. It's always better. The moment I came in, I felt better. I forgot all the pain, as if nothing hurt anymore. I'm fine. Very good, actually.
The survivors here must also learn to live among the dead. In the Kharkiv and Donetsk regions, mass graves dot the landscape. Now the work of holding Russia accountable for its alleged war crimes is gathering pace. No one can imagine the pain of watching your son's tortured body being exhumed. But Alexander still stands watch as his son Andrei is brought from his grave. The young father of 3 was taken by the Russians to the dark woods outside Borova. He endured the worst torture imaginable. Andrei's mutilated body was thrown into this pit where other victims were buried until Alexander was allowed to collect his son.
They tortured him. If they just shot him, that would be one thing. But they cut him, cut his finger off, stabbed him with knives, cut his genitals. When I washed his body, I found 15 gunshot wounds in his back. 4 of them stuck in his spine. I buried him. God sees it all.
Eight months of death and destruction in a war of Putin's choice that Ukraine and its people must endure. This is a story with a beginning, a middle, and no end in sight.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.